welcome to Viewpoints, brought to you by Equiture, the leading provider of public safety software and training. My name is Sherry Bartram. I will be your host today. A little bit about us before we get started. We are an international leader in public safety training and technology with products geared toward providing tools to help responders stay safe and educated. For those of you who are new, we offer monthly podcasts with a variety of guests geared toward public safety topics, as well as monthly webinars and a diverse offering of training courses through our apprentice platform. I encourage you to check that out as well. Today on our show, we are talking with Chief Randy Repola and Supervisor Amber Parvin. Randy serves as a Chief of Police for the University of Colorado Anschutz. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Medical campus in Aurora, Colorado. He joined the University of Colorado Systems in 2012, starting at CU Boulder as Deputy Chief for Support Services before being promoted to his current role in 2017. Chief Repola brings over 29 years of law enforcement experience from both municipal and university police departments. Beyond his policing career, he spent 9 years in municipal administration, where he oversaw multiple departments, including police, fire, rescue, risk management, and human resources. Currently, Chief Repola serves on the Colorado Bureau of Investigation's Board of Executive Directors, which acts as a policy advisory board for the Colorado Crime Information Center, known in Colorado as CCIC. He previously served on the Larimer County Emergency Telephone Authority Board of Directors during the era of hardwired phone systems. Kind of dating yourself there, right, Chief Repola? Chief Repola holds a MBA from Colorado State University and is a graduate of the prestigious FBI National Academy. Amber Parvin joined the University of Colorado Medical Campus Police Department in 2017 as an emergency communications technician, and she was promoted to lead technician in 2021 and then communications manager in 2023. Amber has earned her Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia in 2005 and a Master in Public Administration from CU Denver in 2022. The Emergency Communications Center that she operates 24/7, including weekends and holidays, like a primary public safety answering point. It is served by 7 technicians, 3 leads, and 2 supervisors. So welcome, you guys. I'm happy to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So today, Randy and Amber are going to join us to cover a couple points. The benefit of shared resources, specifically for their agency, is the computer-aided dispatch system known as CAD. They recently went live with and what it took to get where they are now. During this process, we also are going to talk about what it means to be an emergency communication center, or referred to as an ECC, for a college, and the differences they experience than that of a primary PSAP. While technology has helped them bridge that gap significantly, I believe you will learn, as I have through planning this podcast, that there is more to a college ECC than I realized. So again, thank you for being here with us today. And if I could take a moment before we jump in, Amber, you came into public safety world from the private sector. What pulled you here? And have you officially been bitten by that public safety bug yet?
The short answer is yes. A couple of things. My private sector experience was customer service, so I landed where I was supposed to land. This space is definitely customer service oriented. A lot of what we do is caring for the community, especially at a smaller agency. We're all about that relationship with our community and knowing what those needs are and anticipating what they are. So coming from that space into this space, it's just a transition from what that private sector to the public sector looks like, but doing the work that takes care of people and doing something that you can feel good about, it's just a higher level of what I go home, what that feeling that I take home with me of what I can contribute to my community.
I love that you mentioned that about customer service. I think that sometimes we forget, when we answer that phone, that we're still public servants dealing with customer service.
Especially as a dispatcher, a 911 technician, we're the first person that they talk to. So their first impression is that voice that they hear, whether it's one of my technicians that's super bubbly or super efficient. Not everybody's the same, but hopefully they get the same level of customer service, just how it's delivered, depending on the personality, but they're going to get that same level depending on who it is.
I agree with that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Randy, I just have to say, I would be amiss if I did not thank you for bringing Amber with you today.
Well, if you had gotten only me, you'd get none of the technical knowledge. All you would get is the politics.
Oh, well, those are important too. For as many years as I've known you, and for maybe Amber, and for our audience, Randy was my very first mentor in leadership, and so Amber, you're in good hands with him as your direct supervisor. But Randy, for as many years as I've known you, you've had a drive to make a difference and to change things for the better. So here you are at CU. What I look at your career path. What brought you here?
So Terry, I'm not sure if you were aware of it. I started at Colorado State University when I was a student. And that's how I ended up in a small town in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. In the summers, we'd work for the police department. Then we'd go back and work at the university. And then I went on to work in municipal administration for almost 9 years. And then did some contract work overseas. The university setting has its own challenges, but also I think it's a great place to invest not just in the people that work for the department, but you're creating an environment where young people are learning and exploring and growing as well. So coming back to it after, and if I were honest, I was ready to get a few steps away from the politics of a small town. And the University of Colorado is a huge system. I can't remember how many employees we have. Our campus alone is 17,000 employees, and there are 4 campuses. So we probably employ 40 to 50,000 people across the state, educate tens of thousands of students. So I thought it was a great place to work on creating an environment where education, research, and on our campus, patient care takes place. So I thought it was kind of a fun return to my roots, so to speak. I certainly missed some of the municipal elements, but the university is a whole other world.
The university system is the 3rd largest employer in the state.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. That's why Amber's here to fill you in with facts.
That's funny. So you get away from the small town politics, and you're at a university that is like a large, medium city.
Very much so.
Well, so again, Randy, when you worked in that small town, we had shared resources with the other small towns, large cities in that county, such as CAD. Some of our audience may be familiar with that process of PSAP to PSAP. Could you tell me though? And I know, if you remember right, there was some political maneuvering to get where we got. But where you're at now, how long did it take to lay the groundwork for what you've done? where you're at now with your shared resources?
So in effect, I've kind of gone back and had to look at some of the documents to figure out when did we start this path, because we just went live in May, so May of 2025. The discussions started in the fall of 2020, and we weren't necessarily having a problem with our CAD RMS. It was fine, but what we did not have was situational awareness for the city that surrounds us. So CU Anschutz sits in the city of Aurora, Colorado. We are about 3 square miles. We sit in District 1. District 1 is their busiest of their 3 districts, probably by a factor of about 3. There's a certain aspect of university policing that, while we're not responsible for what happens on our perimeter, under federal law, we have a responsibility for notifications to our campus. So think back to, I'm not sure what the latest, there's so many different terms, the reverse 911 kind of mentality. When something happens on our perimeter under the Clery Act, we're required to make emergency notification to our campus constituents. Aurora's PSAP has got to be one of the busiest in the metro area. So if we hear something on the radio, we actually are on the same radio infrastructure. We know they have something, but we don't know the detail that their call taker has. So one of the driving variables was to have real-time insight as to what's going on around us, so as to at least have situational awareness and prep for emergency notification. I guess I should add, when I came from the Boulder campus, which is in Boulder County, we were all on the same CAD system. So I had an idea of what it looked like. So I didn't like create this from whole cloth. I knew it was possible, but whereas in Boulder County in Colorado, we have a 911 surcharge. Well, the surcharge pays for the CAD system in Boulder County, similar to what they did in Larimer County. Here, it's not quite the same. So we were going to have to foot the bill ourselves, but for that awareness and for a very robust system, one that an agency our size could not afford, it seemed like a logical next step. We already had an intergovernmental agreement with the city that gives our officers, while we have state authority as state certified officers, we didn't have the authority to write tickets basically and enforce municipal code. The IGA, which was created decades ago, gives us that authority. We needed another IGA in order to get on a shared CAD system. So actually, I think the IGA itself took 2 years, and then the launch took, about another 2.5 years. But some of that was more based on the technology. So all told, where we started in the fall of 2020, we went live in the spring of 2025. So what does that make it? About a 4.5-year process.
You started in the fall of 2020, so you started during COVID.
Yeah, we didn't have anything else to do, so we thought we would start a CAD RMS migration.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So you mentioned a lot of different things just then. Were there a lot of different steps when working with the EEC and a PSAP as opposed to your recall of when you were working, getting those same steps together with a PSAP to PSAP?
Yeah, in fact, even just in our county, it's different than it was in Boulder County. So, for example, we're on a different phone system. So if a caller from our campus, let's say if they used a cell phone, that 911 call would go to the city. The city can't switch the call to us. In fact, Amber can talk more about the technicalities, but elsewhere in the state, if you're on the same phone if you're on the phone system, you can switch the call. And when the call gets switched, you not only get the voice or transferred, you get the data. We didn't have that functionality. So that was maybe another variable, that having the CAD system, we could at least see their notes. And Amber can speak to how this works as far as if we have to create a new call. But yeah, in a PSAP to PSAP, you can go in, there's 100 auto dial numbers. We're not on that system, at least not yet. We haven't given up on that. But we had to get a little more creative when it came to getting that data transferred from the city's PSAP to us. Voice isn't as big a deal, but the data was non-existent. And maybe you should let Amber correct anything that I just misstated.
Well, Amber, is there anything you want to correct that he just stated?
I know we might talk about it a little bit later. And yeah, I mean, the technology isn't necessarily there as far as, yes, Chief's right. we can't have that information in real time. The new CAD system does make it easier to get the information in the CAD system. Obviously, the telephone system's not there yet. We do have to create a new call because of our call or CAD numbers. We have to keep them within the jurisdiction, but we can do that at a later time. So if there's a critical incident and we just need this information right away, we can work off of what we have right in front of us and do that on the back end. So it doesn't take any more time in the moment, and we can get the services, get the response, get everything started right away, and then create a call afterward. So everything's happening as it should. Response is not delayed. And we have that information a lot quicker than we would had our, previously when our CAD systems were not operating within the same system.
So I do have a staffing question for you, Amber, along with a technical question. As this started coming closer to reality, well, first of all, I'm sure you're aware, nationwide dispatch centers, EECs, PSAPs have experienced shortages. So you said you have 7 technicians?
That's in an ideal world, yes, when we're fully staffed.
When you're fully staffed. So with 2020, with the pandemic, COVID, some people don't even like saying those words anymore. Did you experience a high turnover?
We did at about the end of 22. We experienced a sort of a fallout. We've hired a couple since then. We're about 30% down. We're hoping to hire another one next month. So it's been a slow, gradual increase in staffing. But we, our numbers that we've retained since 22 have been great. We haven't lost anybody. It's a great place to work. I think if I could toot my own horn, they're being managed well. They want to stay. The new CAD system helps a lot as far as making their jobs a lot easier and getting them that information that they need and want to help do their jobs. So, yeah, staffing is definitely still an issue, but having those resources really helps.
Okay, so when you started the project, or the people, as you prepared, how did you prepare the staff? And were they excited, or did they have other emotions?
I would say they were mostly excited. They had a few reservations. It was obviously a lot bigger and more robust of a system than they were used to. The previous system was a bare bones system. So a lot more gadgets and gazmos and thingamabobs than they were used to. But in order to approach onboarding, we had a lot of planning meetings internally. We had planning meetings with our partners at Aurora 911 and APD because they're separate. Aurora 911 isn't in the police department, but we got a project manager. Everything was taken care of as far as them having it set up for us for success. Internally, I leveraged my resources. I leveraged the relationships I had built over at Aurora 911 from previous trainings that I had attended with some of the supervisors over there. So I counted on them and asked them lots of questions. And one of my supervisors actually came from Aurora 911 and had experience with a system similar. They were on a different system before, but it was similar to the one we're on now. So his experience was critical in helping us on board the new system. So with his help, I set up a training program to make sure that everybody was ready. And um, yeah, luckily they were eager. They they just they just dove right in. They were excited to learn. And even though you have all of this training and you know, because we had a development site, so we could get in there and we could practice and we could do all of these things. And then when Go Live finally got here, there was still so much to learn, but they had enough experience and enough confidence that when Go Live came, they took it in stride, and they still had a lot to learn, but they were successful, and I'm really proud of the job that they did. If I could just tell the whole world now, I'm really excited. They're still learning, and they're still, uh, you know, getting closer and closer to where we want to be. But it's been quite a success.
Well, I have to say, it sounds like you did it as perfectly as you possibly could. Leveraging all those.
I did have lots of help, so
Well,
as you would need, right, in this sort of situation.
but you took everything you had and you put it in place, and that would be the perfect suggestion I would pass on to anybody listening is use those relationships that you've established and put them to use like you did. That was great. Sounds like great. That you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really glad it turned out the way that it did.
Good, good. I'm glad your staff was excited. You want them to be excited, rather than,
And you know, I kept telling them, like, you're nervous, but if you think about it, nervous is the same as excitement. Like, if you just reframe it, like, we're all excited.
it's just the unknown. You know,
hmm
you're comfortable in your world, even if your world is not efficient. You know, it's hard to know what you don't know.
And if you know dispatchers, you know there are a lot of introverts. So, you know, change is hard, but I think they managed it really well.
Right. Change is hard. You go first.
Yeah, trying to lead by example for sure.
Right. Well, technically speaking, for this could be for both of you. Once the political hurdle was overcome, what was the most challenging piece next?
Uh, I think it's probably the IT because we had
Oh,
to have the connectivity. And actually, one variable I forgot to mention, Aurora was already on this vendor's records management system. They had migrated to the CAD system in the late summer of 2023. And originally, we naively thought, oh, we'll just go the next month. Well, it wasn't that simple. What delayed the launch was probably the connectivity and the security requirements. And I don't know that the new security requirements that have come out from CGIS, and maybe it's not new as much as the state of Colorado is paying closer attention, required more redundancy and what do we say, access control. So the IT part probably, at least from the meetings that I sat through, created more challenges than maybe even some of the reservations or anxiety that our staff had. And Amber, I'm not sure if you have a different perspective on it.
I would 100% agree.
The technology is it's that double-edged sword. It can make our lives easier, or especially now, and two, being a research, so we're a research campus. We do more medical research here than we actually do academic programming. And so we are hypersensitive to IT security. The city, I would say, probably was equally sensitive to it. So there was a fair amount of work done between the IT folks, meetings where I had no idea what language they were speaking. IT people don't speak normal English. Everything's an abbreviation or an acronym. So I spent most of my time Googling what they were talking about. But that was another group that was really willing to work together to find a way to establish the redundancy and the security level necessary to make both sides of the partnership feel comfortable.
you've talked about the campus, that you're at being a research campus. So, um, did the IT, did Aurora, did everyone know what kind of research was done there? I mean, I don't know. Until I started talking with you, I didn't even realize that to be a fact. So I,
We are we're probably the number one research medical institution west of the Mississippi. Now, someone else will hear this will say, no, it's someplace in California. I don't know, but what we have here is a significant footprint and personnel count for medical research. And by virtue of some of the medical research that we do here, patents are created, the patents are spun off, and then just to the north of our campus is a bioscience park. So we have actually bioscience companies that have co-located onto campus so that if they're partnering in research or if that patent spins off and they partner now with the university-owned patent, that can all happen here within about 3 square miles. Research also requires some other, what would you say, significant tools. So, for example, research irradiators. And I can talk about this now because we just recently retired ours. Anyone out there who's familiar with radiological material, we had a significant amount of cesium-137 in one of our research buildings. That material is very attractive to terrorists. So in addition to providing police service response for the campus, we also are very security sensitive. In fact, Amber's team serves 2 purposes. They're an ECC when it comes to calls for service. They also monitor hundreds, if not thousands, of alarms, a significant number of panic alarms, as well as other intrusion, hold up type alarms as well. So and I think that the city has a general idea. I don't think they know some of the materials that sit inside of a research building, but it's all part of that process, not only to develop, but then to test the solutions that the researchers find. And I'm sure I've not described that in a technically or medically correct format, but it is fascinating the work that they're doing here.
yeah, I had no idea. Was that so? How was that for you, Amber, coming on to the campus? You know,
It is a lot to learn. It is months and months of learning alarms and what to do for this alarm and what to do for this type of alarm and what camera angles to find this door and what camera angles to find this intersection. And it is, luckily our training program is robust, and we've had the opportunity to revamp it a couple of times since I've been here, just with all of the technological updates and experience from, like I was mentioning the supervisor earlier, with his experience coming on. I'm just so fortunate to have somebody like him on my team. He really just made my job a lot easier. But yeah, it's amazing how many things you have to know. And because we do have so many things that could happen that don't happen all the time, the muscle memory isn't built in. So we have just every resource that you could imagine to help somebody for almost every type of call. They just need to know where to find their resources, because we don't expect them to know how to handle every single situation, because it might not happen maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years.
so has CAD helped that? I mean, can you put in alerts and those kind of things in your CAD system so that if someone types in an address where there is sensitive information on that particular building, that it will alert
Absolutely.
them?
Yes,
So that's
and
very
that is one of
helpful.
the things about this. One of the things about the shared CAD is that now when fire responds, they have that information as well. We don't obviously have our own emergency medical response or fire response. We share that with the city of Aurora. So they have that information when they're responding because it's already built into the system.
That's nice.
It is very nice.
A benefit probably, well, maybe you didn't initially think of when you were thinking of a shared CAD, but it probably came to light pretty quickly.
Yeah, and just like Chief was mentioning, those materials on campus that are maybe hazardous or things of that nature, we had to discuss those with the city of Aurora, the police department, and Aurora 911 as very sensitive information, and just make sure that we were on the same page about how we do we talk about that information on the radio? Do we just say, hey, look at the notes? You know, there's a process for all of that that we didn't think about when we decided to go and share the CAD system. So yeah, it opens a lot of topics and new processes.
Great information. Well, what other types of equipment or systems would you like to share in a perfect world?
You know, we have pretty good integration now. Now that we're on the same CAD and RMS, we have the same radio infrastructure. When we started building buildings here, we have one building that's 12 stories high. It's the highest point in the city. So the city needed a higher point for their radio system. So by virtue of that partnership, we have 6 radio channels. We pay maintenance on the equipment, but it's infrastructure that would be difficult to sustain on our own. I think right now what we're trying to do is kind of what would you say, kind of stabilize, take stock, get proficient with these systems. There are also some human resources that we share. City of Aurora is very progressive when it comes to mental health crises. So they have what's called a mobile response team. We've done some networking with them. We've also brought them in to work with some of our student groups so as to identify non-police resources for response to like a mental health crisis. The other area that's a little complicated in our campus, and it doesn't necessarily require infrastructure, requires coordination, is, well, we cover everything outside the hospitals. We have 2 teaching hospitals on campus. The city covers everything inside the hospital. So there are times, I guess this kind of goes back to those CAD notes. They may have a call for something that's in the emergency department over at Children's Hospital, and we may have heard part of the radio traffic, but we don't have all the detail. So we have the CAD notes. So at least from my perspective, I think we've leveraged it pretty well. Amber, does something come to mind that we need to be taking advantage of, or I shouldn't say take advantage of? Someone from the city is going to hear this and say we're taking advantage of them, but that we could collaborate more on.
I have some ideas. I don't know if this is the platform for them, but we luckily we have a monthly meeting with Aurora 911 and Versaterm to talk about what's working, what are just a platform to discuss more like a roundtable discussion and work out some of those things. So just to fine tune what the system can do.
You know, there is the other area that I think we have some sharing on cameras. Amber referred to cameras. We have our own CCTV system, which right now I think is at about 1,400 cameras. We also use LPR. We've outsourced our LPR to Flock, so we basically lease a system from them. The city is way ahead of us on that. They had a camera network across the city to include license plate recognition well before we even started thinking about it. So they've been a really good partner when it comes to sharing some of the technology. I think right now we kind of need to consolidate our gains and also look at how can we give back. I feel like we've taken a lot, and the city's been a wonderful partner. But is there something that we could be doing to complement or supplement what they're doing in our areas?
Okay, that really does sound like a great partnership. When you're surrounded, like you are, by a large, very busy primary PSAP, are there challenges for your staff?
Amber, you want to start?
I alluded to it earlier. Again, it's that because we don't have the level, the call volume that Aurora 911 or even Denver might have, that we don't have the muscle memory to respond to some of those critical incidents, or even um, those hotter calls that the training is so critical, that we keep our staff fresh, and make sure that they have access to training and resources, that when something does happen, they're ready to take on a call like that.
The other challenge that with more information is using, and I think this starts in the ComSend, using discretion as to, say, the city will pen a call that is within our area where we have jurisdiction, knowing when we can or should take that call, notify the city, and handle it, versus allow the city to determine. Their watch commander might decide, hey, can you check this suspicious person on the north end of campus? Striking that balance, because now we know in real time when they have it. Whereas in the past, we may not have known that because we didn't see their pending queue. And just striking a balance between how do we help the city without committing too many resources and not being able to handle something if you get a high priority call that happens back on campus. So information is a good thing. Sifting it and properly discerning when do you jump in versus when do you just be a good partner. And I think that the folks at the line level are getting a better feel for that.
That's interesting. I guess every college campus is set up differently. For you, for your campus, when does 911 ring directly to you, and when would it ring to Aurora? And along those lines, if it rings to Aurora, and it should have rang to you, or your department should, your police public safety department should handle it, how do they get it back to you, especially now with the shared CAD? Do they just put it in CAD, or do they call you on the radio, or how does that work now?
If a call from a cell phone on campus, if a caller uses their cell phone and calls 911, then it'll go to Aurora 911. Let's say they answer the call, they determine it is our jurisdiction. Then they can do one of two things. If they've already gone through their pro QA and answered all of the questions and created a call, they can redirect the call to us. The process is, we're still kind of figuring it out, but in a perfect world, then they would call us and say, hey, we've dropped this call on your screen. Then we would create our own call. If it's an emergency situation, they could transfer it, they could conference it. There are a couple of different ways they could handle it. So we just need to really fine tune our process now that we have a different system in place. Most of the time it is a non-emergent call and they're just giving us information. So if it's an emergency, they could also handle it. There are a few different ways to do that. So if it's a desk phone, it's a landline that's wired, it will come straight to us. If it is a high priority call and we need mutual aid, that call would be on our screen and we would patch just different channels, and Aurora would have that information and we could include them into our call and add units to our call. Add Aurora's units to our call.
Okay, so you would add their units, how would you know which units?
They would add their own units, but they would have that information.
Okay, I got it. Do you have the ability with the shared call, with the shared CAD, to create a CAD incident for them, or do they just see your CAD incident? Do you know what I mean by that?
we really tried to keep, because there are different jurisdictions within the CAD system, they would want their own CAD number, and we would want our own CAD number for record keeping. So even if we created a call, they would want to recreate their own call to have their own CAD number so that they could have their own report number, their own record keeping as far as it would fall under their statistical reports, everything on their side to keep it nice and neat, if that makes sense. So even though we have all the information they need, they would want to recreate it so that it falls under their system and easily accessible. And especially we're finding, because we're working out some of, the things that we weren't expecting, the report, should it accidentally be in the wrong jurisdiction, would need to be recreated to be in the right jurisdiction for the courts.
Right. So if the report was accidentally pulled, but it had, like if the dispatcher created a report, but it was on the wrong agency incident, yeah, I can see that would be, I've actually experienced that,
But you can also link, if we have our own CAD number and they have their own CAD number, you can link them for easier access to their notes and our notes. So that you just pull up yours and you can find whatever they put into their end of the call.
Well, that's nice too.
Well,
So go ahead, Randy.
I'm about to show my ignorance. This system, Amber, I think is, help me explain if I don't have this right. Whereas in the past, we'd have a CAD number associated with the call, and then the dispatcher would assign a case number. This system is your CAD number is also your case number. So that's
correct.
Why each agency needs to have their own CAD entry, because your CAD entry becomes your case number. There's not, and it's the same vendor for both systems. So that's a little bit of a change from what I had been used to in the past.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
So even if they redirect a call to us, it's still showing as their CAD number and their jurisdiction. So when it pops up on our pending screen, we have to recreate the call essentially, even though all the notes are there. And as I was saying earlier, that's great. We can work off of it. And in an emergency, we just use that and recreate it when we have time.
Okay.
But for the sake of the call, we need to at least get something on our screen so the officers have the information on their MREs. But as far as like making it look pretty and, having everything that you need and packing it with all the notes and making sure that it's good to go as far as for the records manager, for the courts and everything like that, we can do that on the back end.
So much different than what you had before, right?
Yes, very different. There's just so much capability with this one that we didn't have before, and I think that's what's most exciting for especially the dispatch technicians, is they are learning so much about what is possible, and I think they're excited again.
Good. That's good. Well, so we talked a lot about processing a call. What are your primary call types?
Amber, I'll let you take that one. You know better than I do. I'm not allowed to be on the radio.
I think, like Chief was mentioning earlier, it's the safety and security of the campus. So we're responding to calls that are a response to making sure that I don't know how to put it more eloquently than you did earlier. If you want to answer that, Chief.
We kind of talked about the research environment, And something that's maybe a bit unique about our campus, we're locked down. So we are controlled access in probably 90% of our buildings. We have probably about 35 buildings, 4.5 million square feet. And unless it's a clinical space where we actually have practices seeing patients, you have to have a prox card to get in a building. So you'll have vendors or we'll have affiliates that have locked themselves out. So we've got a uniform security division that dispatch also manages and sending them to and from to assist with access to buildings or to assist in that fashion. Knock on wood, we don't have a lot of crimes against persons. Property crime is probably the most significant on the criminal side. And anyone who's familiar with what the Denver metro area went through about 3 or 4 years ago, motor vehicle theft, we just got hammered. We were losing 2 or 3 cars a day. I'd say losing, they were getting stolen. So that's another piece of technology that Amber's team has to manage. We have LPRs and tracking those cars, getting the hits, clarifying them, make sure it's accurate, and then the dispatchers are really good using the cameras in the communication center to pick up the vehicles and see where they went.
Yeah, and tracking them all over campus, it's amazing. I'm amazed at how great they are at it. I could never, but they've been very successful, leading to arrests on campus, recovered stolen vehicles. They've done an excellent job. And that's a lot of the day activity. At night, it's quite different. It's a lot of assisting the city of Aurora with calls at the hospitals.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
and that's another one that is unique in and of itself. I'm not sure what it's like in other states, but in Colorado, police officers are one of the handful of professions that can commit someone on a civil commit, a mental health hold. We'll get calls from the hospital because both hospitals provide mental health services, inpatient and voluntary service. And at times we'll get a call about a walk away. We'll drilling down to find out if they're just someone who refused medical attention, that's one thing. If they were supposed to be there on an involuntary commitment, in Colorado we call it an M1, then yeah, we will detain and return them. But our dispatchers have to go through a couple different layers to get to an RP that actually knows what their status was. So, and I guess that's not just nighttime, but because of the nature of that service, and I think it's nationwide, we're increasingly sensitive about using police officers to intervene in non-criminal matters. The communications center is the linchpin when it comes to getting good data and good information from a caller before officers go hands-on. So the team is really good at getting to the bottom of it. It just depends on how many different people you have to talk to at the hospital to find a provider that can say, yes, this is the circumstance. And that's a bit of a tangent, so sorry, Sherry, but it's a unique aspect on a medical campus.
Well, it sounds like it takes the dispatcher a while to get there.
Certainly does, and it has been a process in teaching even the hospital staff and the hospital security about our process and what is absolutely necessary on our end for us to do our job. So they're finally coming around, but our job is educating not only officers but other security teams as well sometimes. So but it's a lot of teamwork, and luckily we have other agencies on campus and entities that are willing to help us out.
And I like that. I like that you described that because that's something that was one of the things I really wanted to discuss in this podcast was, what are the differences of what you do? I mean, what you just described is different than what a municipal county PSAP person would have to do, but it's so important. Mm-hmm. It makes such a difference every day.
Yeah, because it takes all of us to get the job done, right? It's not just the emergency communication center. It's not just the officers. It's, the doctors at the hospital. It's the security officers at the hospital. It's all of us.
Right. It's that extra step but it's not really an extra step. It's
Mm.
just part of your job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
nice. What do you enjoy most about where you work? Amber,
Amber,
I'm
you
going
got
to
to
ask
start.
you first because you had said, when we started that you were in customer service before, and this is, just an extension. You didn't use that word, but this is customer service too. But now we've just spent, the better part of an hour talking about the different things you do, and we didn't really talk about what you did before, but um, what you've just described to me over the past time that we've been together is, customer service on steroids. You do so much more than customer service. So tell me what you enjoy most about working.
Well, before I was in health and wellness, so it was definitely something I could feel good about. Um, but this is changing people's lives, right? Like, I mean, that is kind of too, but I manage a team where I can watch them grow and develop and even help steer them into hopefully helping them be the people that they want to become. Um, and I love that. I give them a voice in an agency that um, is a smaller agency, and I love that. I love that we have, especially on my team, like I can genuinely say, and I know like it's not just lip service, a family feel. Um, so that is probably what I enjoy most is supporting them and giving them a voice in an agency. Um, where, as we know, sometimes dispatchers get lost in the shuffle. Um, so if I can do that for them, then I feel like that I've done my job. Working at CU is great. There's a very healthy work-life balance. When I was looking for public service, my husband is an officer. He just retired, but he was an officer at APD. He retired as a lieutenant, and he said anything but Aurora 911. So, and nothing against Aurora 911. It just wasn't the work-life balance that he knew that we wanted for our family. So, um, I mean, that says about enough about CU that I've been here for 8 years. This was what I was looking for in a career, and I'll probably be here until I retire. So yeah, I've it's given me everything that I needed out of my career so far. I've got my master's, and I'm very happy here. So I can say that um, Chief and I started around the same time, and I'll be here longer than he is for sure.
That sounds like a challenge, Randy.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm just a little bit younger, so I think that comes with the territory.
most people are, Amber.
All right. Thank you. What about you, Randy?
Um, well, it is. It's two different things. I kind of alluded to it earlier. I should say two things, two elements. It's that opportunity to support an educational environment. Whereas when I was in Boulder and we had 20,000 undergrads, 7,000 of them freshmen, it was a very different vibe. Out here we have 4,400 students, give or take a few. 10% are undergrads, and those are predominantly in the nursing program. So our role here is to create an environment where they can develop their academic credentials, they can get their licensure, and where they can take care of patients. The other side, the research components. So it's providing a safe environment for all of that to take place. Um, Also, our agency, we're pretty small. We're 70 total employees. Only about 40% of that are police officers. So 28, 29 police officers. The rest are professional staff. And I take great interest and I take joy in seeing those teams come together and leverage that expertise. Amber would tell you that we don't have the level of integration that I'd like to see, but we've been working on it diligently for probably the better part of the last 5 years to get the officers to understand that what the communication center can do. We have an entire electronic security division. We have technicians and a front office team that manages the access control, what access goes on your badge, what systems we can monitor, and how we can use that as a force multiplier. And in this day and age, and you kind of touched on it earlier, we're not getting a plethora or a surplus of applicants, whether it be for the communication center or for patrol. So we've got to find a way to leverage technology to get the same work done. And we've got a good team. Some of them come to it with a different perception of what a police agency is, and then understand that here, while you may be a police officer or you might be a dispatcher, your ultimate goal is no different. And I think that over the last few years, we've really emphasized, not just us, but I think in the industry, dispatchers are the first responders. And if we equip that team with the equipment, and the people skills, that makes for a better response. We're also very fortunate. We have great support from our leadership. We moved into a new building, about 2 years ago. We have a state-of-the-art communication center. Most people are jealous of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just been blessed. And I can't think of a better place to actually finish my career. So my policing career will finish here in the fall. And I'll move on to being a volunteer fireman or something else where people wave at you with all their fingers when you show up. And I feel like we'll never be done, right? This profession continues to change. But I think with leaders like Amber, and we've got other members of the team, I think we have a good foundation and that they can just take it to whatever that next level is.
That sounds great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to add for our audience?
No, thanks for letting us kind of share our story, because when you're done and you're implemented, you think, oh, that's good. What do we do now? You fail to look back and realize how much the team has accomplished in the last 5 years. And my job was just to get out of the way and let them make it happen.
Well, it sounds like a great implementation. Like, I know it probably didn't feel like it at times, but it sounds like you guys did a great job.
Yeah, we're not done yet.
Well, you're never there.
The real work begins now.
Right? I remember when Next Generation 911, they first started talking about it. I was at that small mountain community and I was thinking, oh, wonder if I can retire before it gets here. When I realized that wasn't going to happen, I'm like, okay, I want to be first. You're never going to be Next Generation 911. You're never going to be done. And if you think that, you probably should, get out of the way. Or retire. Right. All right. Well, thank you both for joining us. Thank you, audience, for watching us today. And my name is Sherry Bartram again. And if you would like to participate in one of our podcasts, you can contact me at cbartram@equiture.com. Thank you again. Have a great day.